Bitcoin has played the fair value gap game incredibly well over the last few days. In this video, we're going to be jumping down into the recent price action for BTC, taking a look at what's going on with Bitcoin and what I would expect to happen next. We'll take a look at the charts. We'll also take a look at what's going on with the on-chain data as well. Who's buying, who's selling, what about the inflows, the outflows, and all that good stuff. So as I get into the video, if you do find it useful, informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then why not consider subscribing, and don't forget to join us down in Discord. Discord is the first place that we go to notify you of everything that's going on in the crypto space, so why not go ahead and check it out, linked in the description below. Let's jump right down into this video. We're going to be taking a look at this one here to start with. This is basically Bitcoin paired up with USDT on the 1 hour chart, and Binance is our data source here. Okay, and as you can kind of see, we've moved down right in here towards our second fair value gap. This is what I put on Twitter this morning. Okay, so we could see that there were some gaps that were created on the way up. Okay, we grabbed the first one, and now we're looking at this one here. Okay, and so this one, as you can kind of see, comes in at $26,895 to $27,070. Okay, and so we kind of come right into this area and looking to kind of fill that gap out. Okay, now we haven't quite finished it. It still has potential to come down just a fraction more before this one completes. Okay, right now we've kind of come through the midway. We came through the 50 EMA, we lost that. We've come down lower than the 200 EMA, we lost that, and the equilibrium, we lost that, and we're right in the fair value gap. Okay, now we can see the little green blocks down here. These are internal buy order blocks. Okay, so this one here and this one right down here. So this is where the buyers are. So right now, just because we have a fair value gap here, it doesn't actually mean that that's where our support is going to be found. Just means that this is an area where liquidity did not exist previously, or very little liquidity existed, and that is why the gap was created over this side here. So knowing that we have this range down at the bottom, these being right in this low range here of 26,552 through to the slightly higher range of 26,781, that's kind of where you are going to expect to find some form of support. This happens to be where we consolidated down as well previously. Can be on the upper end of this as well, but essentially I'm looking at this thinking we have to come down lower than the 26,895 to fill the gap out, and then we can talk about that move to the upside from there. Okay, we can see that we have left another fair value gap. It's this red one right here. Okay, so this one is an area that we are going to have to revisit, but in the opposite direction. So once we fill the low side, we have to move up, and we can see that this area, we actually click this, it's between $27,282 and $27,600. Okay, so we know it's right up in here, and as such, this area is an area that we're going to look for a bounce and retracement into, and we can see that we're going to find the upper resistance right up here in these red areas, as these are where the sell order blocks are. So essentially right now we are stuck in a bit of a range. Let me actually go ahead and remove those. So we're stuck in a range, right? And essentially, where are we ranging? Well, we're ranging from this low to this high at the moment. It's actually just a potential beginning. We might actually be able to refine this even more to where these green areas are and these red areas here are. Essentially, we pushed up quite nicely towards our 28,447. You can see that right up there, and it's currently a week high, which is an indication that we are still in a technically bullish structure here, and that we had flipped from. Now, just want to note that we were in a strange state of play here, where we were bullish, then we flipped to bearish, then we flipped to bullish. Are we going to flip back into bearish? It's basically just being pushed all over the place, and I think this is essentially just going after liquidity, squeezing the shorts out, and now we're looking at all those longs getting squeezed as well right now, with the push to the downside. Basically, I'm thinking that some smart money concepts is what you see here. We're seeing the institutional players basically just absolutely rinse retail in both directions, push the price up, push the price down, and rinse and repeat. So want to be really aware of what's potentially going on here and what's going to unfold, from a most probable kind of standpoint. Okay, what's the most probable outcome and all that kind of good stuff. So on that note, we also noted yesterday that we had ourselves a three-wave Elliott wave structure here on our 1 hour chart, taking this into our low range, right? And we can see that we're right in that sweet spot at the moment. Okay, we are looking between 26,920 and 27,131. Okay, that would put us right inside our low area here on the fair value gap. So again, we can see that now within our structure here. I would acknowledge that we potentially have a 5-wave count, finishing basically on a 5-wave count. Yet we hit the 1.618. This basically means that we should be looking for a small wave 4 upwards, as in 1, 2. Here is 3, up here for 4. Probably find rejection on that 200 EMA, come down into that final 5th wave movement. Probably find support somewhere around that low, and then we can get that bigger swing in the market to the upside here. Okay, so Elliott wave theory, smart money concepts, actually both very aligned in this particular case on the 1-hour chart for what is going on. So looking pretty good and pretty progressive here for BTC. Now, I'm recording this video a few hours ahead of time, so some of this will have played out by the time you actually watch this video, and maybe structures have changed, right? For example, if we want to come down lower, I would not expect the price to go up higher than the 27,554 wave 1 low point. That would create an invalidation or a break of structure under the current idea of going down into a slightly lower area. So all in all, that's kind of where that one sits, and it's looking pretty progressive overall. So let's go ahead and jump on into the on-chain data. Okay, so on-chain data, here we can see top right-hand corner that from the 1st of January 2023 through to yesterday, which would have been the 30th of May, we had 4.041 million Bitcoin going onto the exchanges and 4.0115 million coming off the exchanges. This shows us with a difference of 29,480 Bitcoin essentially staying on the exchanges. This is slightly more on the bearish side than it is on the bullish side. Essentially, this is just showing us that there is more Bitcoin going to the exchanges, potentially being made for sale, rather than Bitcoin coming away from the exchanges after being purchased. Now, it's not a perfect analogy for thinking about supply and demand, but it gives us a pretty good idea as actually there's a lot more people putting Bitcoin on the exchange for sale rather than taking Bitcoin away from the exchanges and storing it for the long term. So this is slightly bearish, but it's not massive. It's quite neutral if we really think about it, pretty well balanced with only 29,000 Bitcoin difference between the two numbers. Now, as we progress on here, we can take a look at the line graph variance of this. So we can see how things are spiking on different days. So over here, for example, on the 15th of May, we did see a significant surge with outflows rather than inflows, right? And yesterday we can see there's actually slightly more in the way of inflows than there were outflows. 30,000 Bitcoin goes on and 25,000 Bitcoin comes off. Now, obviously 4 million sounds like a lot, but if we do reflect on where we were in 2019, and I'm just going to put this to the correct date range, so we're going to marry this up with where we were yesterday. So bring that over, we can see it's 7.49 million going on and 7.4974 coming off. So slightly more bullish, but again, it's well balanced. But the main takeaway here is that the volumes are significantly different. We can see that we're only on 4 million, whereas in 2019, during the start of the start of the bullish market that took us into the highs of 2021, essentially we had a lot more volume, a lot more people were moving Bitcoin around than what you're seeing now. And this is quite alarming, okay, because it does mean that there is, although a bigger circulating supply now than what there was, there is less activity. This shows us that actually the market might still be very, very bearish, and there's only really a few participants moving Bitcoin around. Now, to kind of compound that, we can take a good look back at 2015, which is the bullish market before 2019. And if I take this one to the 30th of May as well, we can see that we had 5.1120 going on and 5.0015 coming off. So again, very well balanced, but volumes are still even lower than they were back in 2015. So it shows that we have a significant drop in the amount of people actually participating in Bitcoin. They're not moving BTC around anywhere near as much as they had done previously. And this goes all the way back to 2015 when adoption was significantly lower. Okay, there was less participants in 2015. I think you can all kind of agree with that. And we can see actually there was more Bitcoin moving around back then. And yes, price of Bitcoin was different, but also so was the circulating supply. It was actually less Bitcoin out in circulation back in 2015 Bitcoin than there is now. So when I say that we have less Bitcoin moving to and from the exchanges, considering a larger supply base, it still kind of compounds that issue that there just isn't really enough demand out there. And so what we've seen over the last few years is essentially just Bitcoin coming on down quite a bit. But who's buying and who's selling? Well, we can take a look at the wallet counts and we can see that basically just retail investors are the ones that are participating at the moment. So we can see here that these are wallets that have at least 0.01 Bitcoin in them, and they've been on the up here for quite a bit. We've got 12 million of these wallets, so a pretty sizable amount of wallets that have 0.01 Bitcoin or more in them. And now as we come up into the retail sized wallets, we can kind of see here we have over 0.1 Bitcoin per wallet, over 1 Bitcoin per wallet, and over 10 Bitcoin per wallet. You can see that these, again, are still accumulating. We have 4.37 million wallets that have over 0.1 Bitcoin. We have a small dip here on the retailers that have 1 Bitcoin, so there's still over 1 million wallets, but a small dip there. And we can see here that the Dolphins over 10 Bitcoin also just pushing up to 156,000 wallets. So we can see that retail investors are really, still involved in Bitcoin. They're the ones that have been kind of buying up all of this. You can see how these black lines are essentially the number of wallets that have at least 0.1 or at least 1 Bitcoin or at least 10 Bitcoin. And you can see how they've been the ones kind of been FOMOing into the market. They've been buying up the market, right? And then when we come over to the whale side or the institutional smart funding side, we can see, well, actually things are a little bit more sporadic. It's up and it's down. It's a little bit all over the place. At least it is on this 90-day view. Okay, this is just 90 days. And we can see here there's a small amount over the last few days to the downside on sharks, which have over 100 Bitcoin. You can see the 1,000 Bitcoin whales. They've been dropping down quite aggressively here. They're probably responsible for both the pump and the dump that's recently occurred here for BTC. And then you can see the Kraken also really not participating as much as you might think. But again, this 90-day view doesn't really give you that idea of what these big institutional investors are doing, because it doesn't really give you enough information. So it's always good to kind of make sure that you zoom out and you pay a bigger attention. So here's what the whales have been doing over the last 365 days. So over the last 365 days, you can see that the Bitcoin whales with 1,000 Bitcoin or more have been steadily selling, and in some places aggressively so. So we can see into the June lows, and June 2022 they were selling, and they were selling at that low point as well. They sold into the move to the upside as well, all the way up into August they were selling. Okay, they kind of bought up a little bit on that way down there, but they were still aggressively selling. They were selling off all of this. They got the way down into November, and guess what? They were selling the November lows as well. In fact, they were selling the progression to the upside as well. Okay, so after the bottom was in, and they were selling all the way down in March as well. So at the beginning of March 2023 is when they stopped kind of aggressively selling and they started to move back up again. But again, it's not really showing us a great amount of accumulation occurring here. Okay, they've kind of, taken part in small little pushes to the upside, but for the most part, I don't think they've really been participating. All they've been doing is potentially taking advantage of liquidity as it has appeared in the price chart. So for the most part, it doesn't give me confidence in thinking that this is an indication of bullish times when we don't have these large smart money funds already coming in here and taking Bitcoin and looking and basically storing it for the long term hold. Okay, and you've got to bear in mind that whales, they basically sell into pumps and buy into dumps, right? And so if they weren't buying the June lows, then that was a bit alarming to us, and therefore we thought there was going to have to be a new lower low in November. But again, they weren't buying that low either. So this again just kind of compounds that issue. Is there going to have to be a new lower low for these guys to accumulate? Because historically speaking, these guys like to buy into the moves to the downside and sell into the moves to the upside. Okay, it's because that is how liquidity works within the space. So essentially what we're talking about here, if I can actually articulate this and kind of make sense of the words, if there are people that are selling Bitcoin, okay, as price goes down, people are selling Bitcoin, then of course that is liquidity in terms of the Bitcoin side of the trade that can be purchased, right? So there has to be liquidity for purchase and there has to be liquidity for selling. So as price moves down, that allows large smart funds to be able to buy. And as price goes up, and the demand comes in to buy Bitcoin, then at that point you can see that liquidity has been provided for them to exit their positions. Okay, so you often see, if we even go back to the 2017 bullish market, that they were essentially buying into the dumps, which we saw over here, for example, right, 2018. You can see that they're buying into this last move to the downside. But in the 2017 move to the upside, they're selling. They're selling into that push to the upside, right? And they're coming out of their positions. So you got to think differently. You don't think like a retail investor of I'm buying the bottom and selling the top. Instead, think like a whale. I'm going to buy into the move to the downside and I'm going to sell into the move to the upside. Because when you do it that way, you stand to be on the right side of the trade. You're not going to be getting, perfect amounts of revenue generated from it, but you're going to generate gains nonetheless. And it's all about making money here. It's not about trying to time the market perfectly, because that's incredibly difficult to do, and very few people actually get that part right. So when it comes to all of our data here, it does look like we see Bitcoin whales still looking to kind of come out of the market. The Kraken had been accumulating massively during the bear market, and it hasn't really dropped on the market yet, not in the same way that it did in 2018, because it accumulated during the bear market, then dropped it all on the market, bringing in the bear market lows. That hasn't happened yet. And again, it's questionable. Just because it has happened before doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but I would suspect, considering the behaviors are the same, that we would expect the same outcome ultimately, but that's still up for debate. In terms of our price action on our chart, so we take this up into our daily time frame, you can see that we are still staring down the barrel of several fair value gaps on our daily, and that is room for concern. Okay, so people don't like to hear this, but it is what it is. On our daily time frame, we have ourselves some fair value gaps that kind of span some interesting ranges. The first one that we really want to be talking about is 25,167 to 26,578. After that gets filled, there is one a little bit deeper here. This one coming in, actually it needs to go up a tad. Let's find where that is. There it is. At 22,150 to 23,976. So that's that one there, and then there's another one just below that, and we pull this one onto here. Oh, apparently I can't pull that one onto there. Let me try to get that on there. Pull that across and get this snapped onto there. This one comes in at 20,686 to 21,813, and then there is one final one on our daily chart coming in just a fraction lower. Right down here. This one's 19,117 to 19,888. Now, it's possible that these do not get filled. However, some of them more than likely will. Okay, I could acknowledge that maybe we won't, fill them all. I still think that you probably will, but that's for the argument's sake that you don't. I think having 4 fair value gaps stacked like this is only an indication of the fact that the smart funds, the whale players, the Kraken players, have manipulated the price of BTC by pushing it higher, yet at some point they're going to be looking to take their profits and bring the price action back down into these ranges. Let me know what your thoughts are on these. Essentially, having 4 fair value gaps stacked like this, to me, just is bearish, and we should start to think about, where the price action has to go to kind of fill those out. Even if we don't fill them all, are you expecting 1 or 2 of these to get filled? Let me know in the comments down below. If we take it to the weekly time frame, things are even worse, because there are 2 fair value gaps here. One is as low as $17,127, and of course new lower lows below there. It'd be interesting to kind of see where this does go for Bitcoin, and there's lots of things to kind of consider. Right now we're finding rejection, as I said, on the supply zone previously, still looking for that move to the downside, and still looking to try to lose that weekly 200 EMA. The monthly time frame is a concern. Aggressively pushed up on our stochastic RSI here without really doing too much in the way of price. Next big move will be to the downside at some point, but for now, looking pretty good on a small move to the upside. Ultimately, though, I still think that we have progression here, with a potential move slightly higher to kind of break us higher towards $30,000. I still think that's something that is possible here. So, we are short-term bearish, but on the medium term, we could potentially see a move up towards $30,000 within our range here. Nothing terribly too unusual. My big concern overall, though, is that this will be a three-wave corrective pattern that then, once complete, will be a bigger move to the downside. So although bullish times may potentially return for a short period, I wouldn't want to get too carried away with that idea, because essentially I think a move to the downside is inevitable. I'm going to leave the video right there. If you did find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out, linked in the description down below. Until the next one, though, guys, have a fantastic day.
We are not financial advisors. None of what we have communicated verbally or in writing here should be considered as financial advice. It is not. Do your own research before investing in any digital asset or affiliate offers, and understand that investing in any crypto is risky. If you do, you need to be prepared to lose your entire investment. This video is for information and entertainment purposes only. All our videos are strictly personal opinions. Please make sure you do your own research and never take our opinions for financial guidance. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. Our videos are not financial advice.